Generic greetings and welcome back once again to Prison Architect and indeed a new series. Today's beverages. A very traditional and reliable cup of tea, the good old-fashioned cuppa. So welcome back to Prison Architect, and in the previous series we were finishing off the death row only sort of facility. The idea was to make a facility that would take in death row inmates and house them and then eventually go through processing, which meant a combination of the death row appeals process or frankly the chair. And because of the former, we had to then provide an area for any inmate that passed the death row appeals process, so like a high risk area that for various reasons I massively underestimated and miscalculated, which meant we had to expand to a new high-risk area cell block, and then it was a sort of natural evolution and expansion toward high, medium, and then low risk with cleared for transfer and all of the associated properties. So things like reducing the reoffending rate and increasing the work opportunities and the logistics and all of the grading and such, and giving them, let's say, more luxuries, etc. And yeah, it turned out to be a fairly successful series and build. This one is going to be a bit more vanilla, and it's also going to contain a mutator in a setting that a lot of people have requested. In fact, it's probably the most requested one, and that is the old school intake. That means that there's always going to be a bus every 24 hours with inmates, whether you want them to arrive or not, whether you have space for them or not, and whether or not the facility is on fire or not. So we'll see how we get on. First things first, however, a lot of people also ask, what mods do we run? Well, as a rule, for anything, I don't run any mods whatsoever. I like the original concept, the original plan and idea of the developers, so I don't normally run with mods. However, I'm not opposed to running bug fix mods, especially when it comes to older games. So the one we're running for this build and for, well, most recent builds anyway, is the Ozone's Fixes and Quality of Life all-in-one mod. It's mainly a selection of bug fixes and game polish. It's the top result on the Steam Workshop, so you can check that out if you do so desire. But that's the only mod we're running for this build, and also probably the only, I think, DLC we're running. So we're going to go with default prisoner gender, uniform colour, default warden, and classic doggo. I would like to change the warden because that would give us at least some statistical bonuses and properties, but we're going to stick with old school as best we can. World size will be medium. Funds will be 30,000 generic units of currency, which again is default. Plot type is going to be default. We're not going to turn on whether in intensity or gangs or dynamic reputations. Fog of War is a thing and has been from some of the early alphas, I believe. That's going back beyond any DLC, beyond the release of the game, beyond early access. We're going back into the beyond, in the annals of time, onto the Internet Archive, into basically the early alphas. But we're turning that off, or rather, we're not turning it on, because, well, it's just a better viewing experience for yourself. However, we will put on failure conditions to give ourselves some added threat. That's a failure if there's too many riots, bankruptcy, deaths, etc. Forests will go on just so we can fell some trees and make some money. Lakes and buildings are off, same as warden mode. Events, they were also turning off as well. I don't mind running events, it gives a little added challenge, but if you get subsidence when we're not running DLC, it could be a bit of an issue, so I'm going to keep that off. Temperature and staff needs again off. However, we will put on escape plans. That's going to become pretty much a massive issue, I think, because we're going to do dormitories on this. Unlimited funds, unlocked bureaucracy, and tools and cheats are all off. DLC, I'm not going to go through them individually because, quite frankly, everything is turned off or disabled and unticked, whatever you want to call it, so you can again run this pretty much a vanilla base game. However, mutators, we have extra challenge, lightening the load, changing the rules, and finally something different. And we've tried a lot of these before, mainly things like acid rain, the good stuff, the big house where all prisoners are legendary, gang warfare, all prisoners are gang members, super guards, super dogs, extra reputations, etc. This one, however, we're turning on the old school intake. Once upon a time, a loaded prisoner bus would show up at your prison every single day, whether you wanted them or not. Welcome back to the good old days. You'll get a busload of prisoners every single day, whether you have space for them or not. Okay, and then play, and then pause immediately because, well, we only have a limited number of time in order to get this facility built. Now, here's the thing. Episode 1 is normally planning, and there's no change here. Oh, that's a very small amount of trees, so we're not going to make much money there. That's a shame. But yes, every time we unpause it, whether by purposely doing it or not, accidentally, it means that the time will run out. So yes, within 23 hours and 55 minutes in game, we will receive 12 minimum security inmates and 12 medium security inmates, and there's nothing I can do about that. And then within 24 hours after that, we're going to get some more inmates, and then another 24 hours, and another 24 hours, and another 24 hours, ad infinitum, until the end of time, and or the heat death, or the universe. And that means that, well, this prison will eventually fail. All prisoners do have a lifespan, a time period, an end state. This one will probably be sooner rather than later. But let's see how we get on. So this, as I said, is going to be episode 1, which is basically planning. So, you know, no harm, no foul. If you do choose to skip this, then feel free, because this is just where we basically do some planning. We set up what we want to achieve within the facility, within the build, and it's going to be, yeah, like I say, the overall idea for it. Naturally, after that, we normally build things and then get inmates. We'll be building as well as inmates arriving, so hopefully we don't get the floor tiles and prisoners' shoes mixed up. So we've just measured the middle here, which is going to be the central spine of the facility. I'm still going to keep it quite symmetrical as best I can, and in fact, the way to make it a little bit easier and manageable for ourselves is to make a modular design. So have something like this, which is like, say, a cell block. Not just a cell block, but it'll have things like dormitories, yards, common rooms, visitation, solitary, canteens, kitchens, all of the support stuff, so that we can have our inmates in here, and then once this is made, we can then copy, clone, paste, you get the idea, and then we can clone it and go ahead and do some expansion. That's the idea, but we'll see how we get on. So let's just go to this, and I'm going to measure, say, 8 from the edge, and then bring this along. The reason for this is I want an area where we have, well, basically we have it so that, well, this is going to be for staff. This is going to be a staff area, so if we wanted to, we can have a 6x6, which is internal, 4x4, which is going to be officers, so all this can be staff only if we want to, and because of that, on this side, it's going to be exactly the same, because often when you do these facilities that you've built with the idea of having in an expansion planned already. So if we're going to expand, say, to the left here, I was trying to draw diagonal there, but you can't. So if we're going to go that way, yes, you could expand as much as you want, but if the only staff room and kennel and stuff is on the right here, then there's a lot of walking ahead of the staff's future there, and most of the time we'll be doing that. Speaking of staff time and stuff, that's why I'm making the central corridor here, the central spine of the facility, a 4 by something, because there will be a huge amount of traffic through here potentially, and some inmates as well, but we mainly won't be going from these cell blocks, and I don't intend to have these graded, but, well, we'll see how we get on with that one. What I do intend, however, is for these facilities to be basically fully self-contained as best I can. So the idea is to have an area like, say, this, where we come around and maybe go... Do I need it separate like that, or do I want to join it up? I was going to have something like this. Let's see. Something like this, where we have a space there and a space there, and this could be where we could have, I mean, potentially a gap all the way around the outside. Oh, actually, wait, this might work. Let me try this. Something like this, and the idea is to have in some doorways there and there, and there and there, and here. And the idea is that any of this bit here, if we have rooms on the outside... sorry, I've put this in here as... I don't even know if that's going to be the end of it, but the idea is to have something like that, where we have, say... yeah, maybe visitors walk around the outside. That could work. It means the bottom one will be identical, But then when we build the other one, it would start... would it start something like that then? Yes, and then you'd still have the walls in between. Okay, it's not entirely lined up, because you do still have these sections here. So you can still have patrols around the outside. Okay, I also don't have an area around here where we can have dog patrols. But I'm not too worried about that, because we're going to have patrols around the central area. That's how I'm going to lay this out for now. Let's go ahead and build the rest of it. So I want in here and on here the sort of kitchen and canteen near the front. So let's do that. And I'm going to have it probably 6 by 6. 6 there, and then a wall, and then that. So it's going to be an internal of 8 by 6, and that's because we'll have objects there, all of your objects here. You get the idea on this side. Lots of space to move around. That should be more than enough for this one. Yeah, that'll be all right. In fact, what I'm going to do is then expand this up right to the top, and this will be an area for things like visitation, because you can have your visitation tables like that if you really wanted to. In fact, do I want it a little bit bigger? No, I think that's fine. As long as you've got a distance of 6, most rooms, when you look at them, are either a 4 by 4, 5 by 5, or maximum 6 by 6. I think for... there's some rooms like... Is it the training room? No, the training room's a 4 by 5. Gym? The gym might be, actually. The gym is a 7 by 7, so we do need a 7. So that is going to change the design. So this will be a 7. So because I think that is the biggest room you can have, you see. Like that. Okay. So objects there. I thought I'd click objects for the 3rd time. There we go. We got there in the end, didn't we? And then again, we can still have things run like so, and that's fine. Then we'll have a door there. Okay, so that's all good. Inside here then, we're going to have again objects, and it's going to be a 3 by 4 and a 3 by 4 and then a 3 by 4. And then we're going to basically copy it on this side. So like this, and this is going to be our serving tables. Sorry, not serving tables. This is going to be our tables and chairs and stuff. Might use benches, might use chairs. I'm not sure, but that's the sizings. Although I probably want to scoot it over a little bit. Yeah, just to have a gap of 2 around the outside. So it's going to be that and that. And that, and then a gap of 2, and then the wall, and then we'll measure this wall, which is 10, is it not? It's 9. So from here over to 9, and then that runs down, and then there's a gap of 1, and then that should be the external part of the facility. Let me just double check in here. So it goes something like that, and then the doors are going to go in there. And then they're running around the outside. So it means I can have doors in here and in here. And like say on this side, so you have the walls there. So this is your kitchen, and then you've got this as well. You can connect all of these up if you really want to and save on this bit of space here, but I don't think I'm going to. The issue that we have is that all of this will be won't it? So this will be all enclosed, which means we don't have the walkway around here, which I'm not a fan of. What I might do, I might go ahead and have that run like this. It's going to depend on sizings, isn't it? Because this is going to be staff only. This is going to be visitor only, this thing here. And then you'll be cloning from that point onwards, and then this is going to be the outside bit, because you always want a bit of a gap, because this will be the end wall, and then that'll be the wall going up there. In fact, it would be better to change that to fencing so we can see it a little bit better. So that would be fencing, and that would be fencing. No, it wouldn't be fencing. That wouldn't be fencing. That'd be wall. But then all of that is one big self-contained unit, this entire thing, which then can be cloned. I think that's right. Something like that. Like that. Put one too much wall in. Have I? Yeah. One too much wall. That. Okay. I think that's right. And then you could clone all of this across. Obviously, you'd still have to connect it with little connectors. Actually, no, because this would be right next to it. Or you could have bits that would go. You would have bits that go on here, and then connect up to the next one. Something like that. Let's continue on in that. I'm still not 100% on this top bit. Because we've still got this walkway, we can have patrols, then we've got patrols in there. I think that's just a bit of a waste. Internal of 7, internal of 7. I think that's a bit of a waste, that. I think we can just go basically to the edge. I think we can just have all this as wall. But I mean, that would be perimeter wall. That's not something that we've done. Have a perimeter wall that is part of the main building. I mean, it's different, I'll give it that. I'll tell you what I'll do is I won't worry about it until I run out of space. Speaking of space, I've already oversized the canteen because this is 72 inmates that can go in there. I don't think we're going to have 72 inmates in here, so we'll see about that one. And yes, these kitchens are oversized, but this is probably going to be one of the few places the inmates are going to be able to work, so I'm not really too concerned on that one. Let me go over to objects here, put the objects in just for sake of, yeah, looks really. We'll see about that one. Like I say, I'm not too sure about this external wall part, but we'll see how we get on. I mean, it means that this is probably either going to be a wall or perimeter wall. So over from here, you can have things like visitation. So I could have that. I'm going to go for maybe 6. Like that. Maybe make it 8, actually. On either side. And naturally, this is obviously where the visitor's going to have to come in, so we'll do that. This is going to open up like so. Actually, I'm gonna move it up a little bit further, actually, to there, because then I can do that to have in the doors and in the metal detectors. Do I want that way or I want the other way? I think I'll have it like that, because then we're going to have all the objects here. So it's going to be 10 and 10. Sorry, 5 and 5 to make 10. This is going to be the serving tables with some bins in the middle and such. We've only got 2 there, but we can put some more on this side if we want to. And by the way, the way into this is going to be probably just there. It doesn't matter because they're never going to go out to here. There's going to be a lot of stuff patrolling there, so I don't need metal detectors. They're never going to be going in there. But this one, they will be, because this is going to have a pathway along. And this is going to be a outside area. This is going to be an area for a yard, because we do want a yard, and the yard will be based around, believe it or not, bleachers, which are are there 4? Are there 4 across? 1, 2, 3, 4. They are. So the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is going to be running track around the outside, because all this is going to be inside, you understand, and then walls are going to be along, and then like that, and then we're going to have doors like so. And then this will be, well, what will it be? Because this is going to be where we have all of the inmates actually being housed. So almost certainly then walls will go up here. And I guess I could have objects there and there. And then doors here and here, where they come in to this dormitory. Now, I'm not going to plan off the dormitory, because I think it's going to be a case of see how many inmates we get based on the sizings, as well as just, say, roughly working it out on the fly, really, because it's going to depend on just how quick we can build things and how fast the inmates are coming in. So yeah, that's that. Fine. I think this is probably a bit too big, this area here. But a lot of this, again, this is planning. This is why we do the planning, because these plans will change. I do think almost certainly this is going to be paired off to something else. We're going to remove this and probably put some phone booths in and stuff like that. But again, as long as we've made provision for oversizing, we can always change it into something else. These on the other side will be, I'm going to make them easy for us and make it a 7 by 7. So we're going to go to walls and have a 7 by 7. So it's just going to be a big square, 7 by 7, and a 7 by 7. And this could be, well, it could be anything really, but the plan is to have, I did want a flower garden in at some point, but there's no way we're fitting in a flower garden in this facility. It'll go in the next one. We'll go on the next one. So this could be things like, one of them could be parole, one of them could be a classroom, another one could be, say, ooh, what would you need? Well, we'll look at needs actually in a bit. One of them could be a... We haven't got solitary in here, have we? No, we don't. Probably one of them's going to be... Probably two of them going to be solitary, because we're going to have a lot of inmates, and we've never had solitary in a facility for quite some time, which is curious. But we'll check that later. Or is this uneven? 18? No, we wouldn't be able to fit in the middle. Well, we could. We could just have it like this, along the outside. Solitary on the edge. Don't particularly mind that. And have it like that. Okay. Maybe. Maybe. This wouldn't really have a purpose at the top there, but whatever. There's solitary. Then two big rooms there. Again, I mentioned about these rooms. We could have mail room. We could have... What else would we need? Mail room, yeah. Maybe. Library, potentially. But a lot of this is going to go in the dormitory. Okay. Frankly, I can't look at prisoner needs at the moment. Because we have... Yeah, we don't have the option to do so. Yeah, needs are off. Okay. So I'm going to have to do it from memory. I think this is just going to be one big block, you know. I don't think we're going to have a fence. I think it's going to be one big block. What size is this? It is 62 by 40. So I could have that as one big area. I could shrink it down by 2. If I wanted to, but I like the idea of these rooms here being a bit larger for something. I think these are oversized, these visitations. I think I'm going to shrink those down and move everything down. But from memory, activating cogitator. Oh, error 4. That's not good. I'm trying to think then. So we've got bladder, bowels, food, sleep, and security. All of those should be in here. Family need will be met by the visitation and the phone booths. Exercise via the running track and all of the stuff in the yard here. That also meets for some sort of need for freedom as well. We have spirituality. We'll have in the prayer mats in the dormitory, as well as we'll have a chapel in one of these rooms here, probably one of the bigger ones. That's fine. Literature will be inside the dormitory, so that's all good. We have a solitary area. We don't have an area for it's not needs, but for I'm thinking health, mainly rooms and such. We should probably look at that in a bit. What else needs wise? Luxuries, we don't have a shop, but we could easily put one in here. I think the shop and shop and chapel is probably two of the big ones, really. Let's have a quick look at rooms. Cells, no holding cell, no dormitory and solitary, yes. We do have that. I don't know if the solitary is too small, but it'll have to do for now. Canteen and kitchen, yes. Showers, no. We'll have that in the dormitories unless I decide otherwise. Yard, yes. Storage, it's going to be the front, same as deliveries, garbage, etc. Workshop, we're not having. Offices at the front. Morgue, we're not having. Common room, we don't need, but if we do, it's going to be in one of these smaller rooms. Laundry, I'm going to put probably Again, in one of these smaller rooms, I think I'm going to have to shrink down. I think almost certainly going to shrink down the visitation to add in laundry, because if it's on the side here, then we could have a problem. I could always have that cloned over here. So we could have, say, like this is a staff only bit, like this, and copy all those rooms into this bit. But I don't think so, because I like the idea of this being cloned a couple of times and then going on. Yeah, okay. I don't know why this size, by the way. I don't know why it's just ended up being 40, because we're not going to get any more in. It's not gonna. Nothing else is gonna fit in. We're gonna fit. Sorry, another one in. But after that, I don't think we are. Let's just see if it was, for example, from here, 40 there, and then 40. We would fit another one in, but they wouldn't be right on the. It wouldn't be right on the left, if that makes sense. Sizing wise, cleaning cupboard, don't think we're gonna have any. Kennel and armory, that's staff only. Same as staff room. Library, potentially. Classroom, yeah, maybe. Chapel, yeah. Patrol, potentially, yeah. Again, you always seem to aim for about 6 universal rooms, 6 rooms that you can just go, look, I need something in there, like a library, a classroom, a mail room, a shop, or whatever. And that's why I've went for this 7 by something, because everything should fit in a 7 by 7 or a 7 by something. All the padded stuff, no. Gym, potentially. We've made provision for the sizing of that. All the allotments and farming we're not going to have. The rest pretty much not either. Okay, right. So all of that, I luckily haven't unpaused it and then forgotten about it, which is good. So that is the very, very rough plan for this old school intake. Yes, I know the idea is to constantly have intake on, and that's what we've done. We have got the mutator on, and I can't turn that thing off. And we can even accept some grants now. So basic detention center, administration center, we can run through all of that, and we have 23 hours and 55 in-game minutes to get basically the very basics done. And the very basics being, we need to have a secure area for prisoners, and we need to be able to house them, feed them, and make sure, and this is quite important for a facility about prisoners, make sure they can't just walk out. So yeah, maybe I do change this outside area up to have a fence and then shrink it down. There'll almost certainly be some temporary building in here, and when I say temporary, I do mean temporary, not temporary permanent. Let's see how we get on. This is a very basic first draft. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if there is time between this episode and the next, I will make any necessary arrangements and adjustments. Hope you have enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Take care, and generic partings.